All right, we should be recording. Just want to do a couple little bits here, finishing up the chapter. Talk a little bit about extraterrestrial life and our search for it, and then I'll explain what your final project is. So, right here, screen right now, extraterrestrial life, idea of astrobiology, exactly what it sounds like. It's a combination of astronomy and biology, study of the life in the universe. And this is really focused on the search for liquid water. And let me explain that a little bit, what I mean by that. As we understand life, it requires liquid water to work. So if you just wanted to search for, let me back up a minute. Without further defining what life is, it'd be tough to search for it in the universe. So we focus on life that is near or familiar to life as we understand it. And on Earth, anytime there is liquid water, there is life. Now, this may be microbial life, this may be bacteria, this may be teeny tiny amoebas and such, but that still counts as life. And presumably, if we want to find life out in the big beyond universe, that's the kind of life we're looking for. Now, it may be in the future we have to redefine that, but for right now, our focus of looking for life focuses on looking for water. Our planet is in what's called the Goldilocks zone, so it's not too close to the star to be too hot, and all the water turns into steam, and it's not too far away from the star to be too cold, and all the water turns into ice. It's in the middle where the temperature is just right. Right? Goldilocks zone, it's not too hot, not too cold, the porridge is just right. And that's kind of what we're looking for. So we're looking for areas in our solar system where we may conceivably find water. For example, the moon. Our own moon, Luna, has frozen water in craters. That's not really ideal because we don't think life really exists well where water is frozen. However, there are a couple of spots. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, we theorize that there's liquid water beneath its frozen surface. And that means it is a contender for having life. We don't know yet. We obviously haven't done a lot of research to it yet, but that's something they're looking into. This is a picture of Titan, one of Saturn's moons, and it has an atmosphere that contains liquid hydrocarbons. Well, what does that mean? Hydrocarbons typically indicate the presence of living things. Hydrocarbons are things like alcohols or methane. If you've been paying attention to the news lately, methane is one of those things that cows produce. That they're worried about the cows producing so much methane is changing the global temperature. So it's a fairly common side effect of biological organisms to produce things like methane or other hydrocarbons. So the presence of hydrocarbons is kind of exciting because, hey, that means there might be living things. Now, again, it might be microbial life. Algae produce hydrocarbons. Other stuff produce hydrocarbons. So it not necessarily means that there's, gray aliens scampering around there with their spaceships coming to probe us or anything. But it still could count as life. There are whole other missions to just search for other planets. This is the Kepler telescope. I didn't include this with the other space telescopes because its mission has ended. But its job was to specifically look for Earth-like planets. And from when it launched in the early 2000s to when it ran out of gas, ran out of fuel in 2018, discovered 20,262 planets, observing 530,506 stars. That seems like a lot until you realize that our planet contains our universe contains billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of stars. So this is a drop in the bucket, but we found a lot of planets that could conceivably support life just by observing those stars. So there's a lot of stuff they're working on. I wish we had time to go into it all. If this stuff interests you, check out NASA's website. They have tons and tons and tons of information about all sorts of stuff. All right, so let's break out of this and let's take a look at, pause for a moment and get to the right page. All right, so here we are, and this is the last section in your packet, and this is what we're going to do in lieu of a test of this chapter. I still haven't figured out a really good way to test you via this distance learning method. So I figured I'd have you guys do a little project for me. I'm going to let you work in groups. I'm going to let you choose your own groups, no more than 4 people per group. If you want to jump between classes, you could. You don't necessarily have to work with someone in your class. You could work with somebody in the other class. But again, no more than 4. And you are going to mock up a lunar colony. And so what does that mean? Well, I'll let you read the introduction by yourself, assuming you can read. You are conducting research about living in the moon and living in space. And what you have to do is you need to figure out what needs to be done to create a lunar colony. And then you're going to create a model of it. It can be a physical model or a computer-generated model. Doesn't matter. I'm not looking for an architectural design challenge here. Could be out of, recycled materials, could be out of cardboard, could be out of Legos, could be out of, or could be, just a drawing on Google Drawing. But what I'm looking for is taking several aspects of what you would need to survive in space, highlighting that need and explaining how you would overcome them or how you would go about overcoming them. Again, teams of 3 or 4. I'm going to let you pick your own teams. And each team member will need a role. One should have recording information about the moon in a journal. That'll need to be turned in. One about living in space. Again, what do you need? What kind of research did you do? And then one is going to be the engineer that'll be in charge of constructing the lunar colony habitat. Again, how you divide up the work is entirely up to you, but each of you guys will be in charge of an aspect of this. And then you'll be presenting it. Obviously, presentation for the class, tough to do in person. I'm thinking we'll just use Zoom for that. I'll see if I can come up with some ideas and give you some more information in a little bit. So here are your important facts that you want to consider. These are the things that you need to think about in the journey that you're taking here, right? So number 1, how do you account for decreased gravity on the moon? Is this a problem? Why is this a problem? How are you going to overcome this problem? How do you produce oxygen for the inhabitants? I don't know about you guys, but I like to breathe. So the lack of oxygen would be a severe problem for me. How are you going to overcome that? Remember, should be self-sustaining. We don't want to ship oxygen from Earth to the moon every time they need oxygen. That'd be difficult. Materials. What would you use to construct your habitat? Where are you going to get the stuff? What are you going to build it out of? Why are you going to build it out of those things? Number 4, how do the inhabitants obtain food and water? Again, remember, the lunar colony should be self-sustaining. So they might get some material from Earth, but not all of their material. We want them to build it themselves, create it themselves, have their own food, have their own water. Where are they going to get that from? And then 5, what can be done to combat the extreme temperatures on the moon? Again, it gets very cold, it gets very hot. How can we overcome that temperature swing? Again, you should have a presentation on this. So the major ideas and reasons for the decisions can be displayed. The model can be included if it's computer generated, or if you want to take pictures of your physical model, that can be included in the presentation. Otherwise, you should have the model. Well, again, we're not going to actually be here presenting, so you don't need to worry about presenting the model. You should find some way to display it in your presentation. And leave some time for questions answered session at the end. Again, that may be kind of up in the air. I'm not sure how that'll work with our Zoom meetings. List of websites for you to check out that might be useful to you. I'm assuming you'll have questions about this. There is an evaluation rubric. This is how I'm going to be grading you on this. And, get a hold of me if you have questions. I'm here to help. So good luck. And if you need anything, let me know.